My name is Eli. I was 17 years old, a student at Crestwood Academy. I had a simple life. Wake up, run, go to school, do wrestling practice, sleep, repeat. I never wanted anything more than that. I kept my feelings locked inside my heart because I knew I was different. I liked boys, not girls. And in my small town, that was a secret too dangerous to share. I never told my mother, never told my best friend Danny, never told anyone. My secret was safe. Then Callum Reed transferred to our school. The first day I saw him, something happened inside my chest. He was tall, with dark hair falling over one eye. He always read books before class started. He was quiet, the kind of quiet that fills a room instead of emptying it. He sat in front of me in English class. I noticed him every single day. I told myself he is just a classmate, nothing more. Then Danny told me at lunch one day, that new kid is joining wrestling. I looked across the cafeteria. Callum was sitting alone, reading again, completely calm, like the whole noisy cafeteria didn't exist for him. Cool, I said, and I went back to eating my sandwich. But my heart was beating faster than usual. The first practice together, Coach Barrera said, Navarro pair with Reed today, show him the warm-up. I walked over to Callum. Hey, I'm Eli, I said. He looked at me and smiled, just slightly, just one corner of his mouth. I know you, he said. AP English, you sit behind me. Your notes are always color-coded. I blinked, you noticed that. I notice things, he said simply. Something about those words made me uncomfortable, like he could see too much. We practiced together, he was strong, I was fast, we were a good match. Then it happened. He moved left, then suddenly went right, and before I could think, I was on my back on the mat. His weight above me, his arms across my chest, his face just inches from mine. I went completely still. His eyes were dark brown with small flecks of amber. His skin was warm. He smelled like pine soap. 5 seconds passed. Pin, coach called. Callum sat back and reached out his hand. I took it. He pulled me up. For one moment our faces were very close. Then he stepped back. Good match, he said. Yeah, I said. I waited until he turned away before I let myself breathe again. Weeks passed. Callum and I practiced together every Monday and Wednesday. We started talking more. Not about big things at first, just small things, books, classes, music, the way certain songs feel like a color. I learned he had moved here after his parents divorced. He missed his old city but didn't say it with sadness, just with honesty. He liked early morning runs. He hated when people were fake. He laughed quietly, but when something genuinely surprised him, his whole face changed. I was falling, slowly then all at once, like a stone finding the bottom of a lake. I hated it, not because of him, because of me, because every time I laughed with him, I felt the locked door inside my chest rattle. One evening after late practice, we were the last two in the gym. We were sitting on the edge of the mat, drinking water, saying nothing. It was comfortable, that kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. Then Callum said quietly, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," I said. "Are you okay?" I looked at him. "What do you mean?" He chose his words carefully. "You seem like someone carrying something heavy, something you don't put down, even when you're tired." My throat went tight. "I'm fine," I said. He looked at me for a long moment. He didn't push. He just nodded slowly, like he was accepting what I said while also making a note that it wasn't quite true. "Okay," he said. "I'm here if you ever want to put it down." I didn't answer, but something inside me shifted quietly, like a door opening 1 inch. Then came the night of the autumn bonfire, a school tradition, held in the field behind the gymnasium. Danny was there, half the school was there. Music, laughter, the smell of wood smoke, a normal night. I found Callum sitting apart from the group, on a low stone wall at the edge of the field, looking at the fire. I sat beside him without being invited. He didn't seem surprised. We talked for 2 hours, about everything and nothing, about his old city, about my mother's cooking, about the strange pain of feeling like you're living slightly beside your own life instead of inside it. "I know that feeling," Callum said quietly. "Yeah." He turned to look at me. The firelight was in his eyes. I spent a long time being someone I wasn't, or hiding the parts that felt too real. My heart was very loud now. "What changed?" I asked. He was quiet for a moment. "I just got tired," he said, "tired of the weight of it." I didn't say anything, but I felt something burning in my chest that wasn't the bonfire. "Eli," he said. "Yeah, I think you know what I'm trying to say." I looked at him, the fire crackled. Somewhere behind us, kids were laughing. I said very softly, "I think I do." He held my gaze, patient, steady, warm. And for the first time in 3 years, the locked door inside me didn't just rattle. It opened. I didn't say the words that night. I wasn't ready, but something changed between us. At practice, our eyes met differently. Not with the careful politeness of teammates, with something more honest and more frightening. One afternoon, walking home from school, Callum fell into step beside me. We walked 6 blocks together. He didn't ask where I lived. He just walked. At the corner where I turned for home, I stopped. "Callum." He stopped too. I took a breath. The air was cold, properly November now, the mountains dusted with snow at the top. "I'm gay," I said. First time I had ever said those words out loud to another person. My voice was steady. I was surprised by that. He looked at me. His expression didn't change with shock or discomfort. It changed with something gentler. Relief, maybe. Recognition. "I know," he said quietly. "I mean, I didn't know for certain, but I hoped." "You hoped." He smiled, the real one, the full one, both corners. "Because I am too. And because I've liked you since the first day you sat behind me in English class and color-coded your notes with 4 different highlighters." I laughed. Unexpectedly, completely, genuinely laughed, out loud into the cold November air. "That's the most embarrassing reason." "It was endearing," he said firmly. We stood there on the corner, smiling at each other. The cold made our breath visible. His cheeks were pink. "I've never said it out loud before," I told him. "What I just told you." "I know," he said. "It sounded like it cost something." "It did," I said, "but less than I thought it would." He reached out and touched my hand, just briefly, just his fingers against my knuckles, and then let go. "You can put it down now," he said. "The weight, you don't have to carry it alone." We took it slowly. We weren't rushed. There was no dramatic declaration in front of the school, no perfect cinematic moment. What there was instead was quieter and more real than that. Study sessions at the library where our knees touched under the table and neither of us moved away. Walks after practice. A Saturday where he came over and my mother fed him 3 portions of her rice and beans, and he accepted every one like it was a gift, because he understood that food was her love language. Slowly, I started telling the people who mattered most. Danny first. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Okay, cool. Does this mean I finally get to make fun of your highlighters?" I laughed so hard I nearly cried. My mother next, harder, more terrifying, the kind of fear that lives in your stomach for days before you speak. She was quiet for a long moment after I told her. Then she took my face in both hands and said, "Eli, you are my child. That is the only thing that has ever mattered." I cried then properly, the good kind. She met Callum the following Sunday. By the end of the meal she was showing him her photo albums. He stayed 3 hours and asked her questions about every picture. Walking home that evening he said, "Your mother is extraordinary." "I know," I said. He reached for my hand. On our quiet residential street in our small city between mountains and a river, he held my hand in the November cold and I let him. I didn't look over my shoulder. I didn't adjust my face. I just walked. The last wrestling tournament of the season was in December. Eli and Callum both made the team. Coach Barrera, who noticed everything and said little, put them in adjacent warm-up spaces. Before his first match, Callum found Eli in the hallway. "Hey," he said. "Hey," Eli said. "Nervous?" "A little, you." "A little." They stood facing each other in the buzzing pre-tournament corridor, surrounded by athletes and coaches and noise. Callum reached up and briefly, gently, fixed the collar of Eli's singlet, a small, unhurried, completely natural gesture. "You're going to do great," he said. Eli smiled. "So are you." They both won their matches that day. Not because of each other, they had both been working hard, been good athletes, been putting in the hours. But there was something different about having someone in the stands who was watching specifically for you. Not in the crowd, but among them, distinct. After the tournament in the parking lot, Callum's mother introduced herself to Eli with a warm handshake. Eli's mother arrived late, still in her work clothes, and kissed Eli's cheek and shook Callum's hand and said, "I've heard so much about you." The four of them stood talking in the cold parking lot for 20 minutes, breath fogging in the air, until Eli's mother laughed at something Callum's mother said, and the sound of it, ordinary and unguarded, made something in Eli's chest settle into place like a key turning in a lock. Not opening this time. Simply resting, fitting exactly where it belonged. Later that night, Eli sat at his desk, homework half finished, the lamp making a warm circle of light, and thought about the word changed. Because that was what had happened. The boy on the mat who had pinned him on a Tuesday afternoon in October had changed him. But not in the way he had spent 3 years fearing he would be changed. He had not been exposed, he had not been hurt, he had not been made smaller. He had been seen, and choosing to be seen, choosing, one terrifying step at a time, to put down the weight and step out of the shadow had made him larger. He picked up his phone. "Callum, how are your notes looking for tomorrow's English test?" Eli color-coded and organized, "Obviously." "Callum, obviously. I'll be over in 20 if that's okay." Eli, "Yeah, that's okay." He set down the phone and looked out the window at the dark sky above the mountains. Somewhere out there, the first snow of proper winter was coming. He could feel it in the air, that particular stillness, that particular held-breath feeling. Not dread this time. Promise. He was still Eli Navarro. He still woke at 6. He still ran 3 miles before breakfast. He was still working on being brave in the ways that mattered, still learning which doors were worth opening, still figuring out the shape of himself. But the system had changed. There was room in it now for softness, for honesty, for the particular warmth of someone who noticed your color-coded notes and thought, "I hope." There was room for Callum. There was room for himself. And in the cold, quiet November of his 17th year, that was more than enough. It was everything.